Welcome back to Generation Rogue, where we dive into cultural commentary and current events from a counterculture perspective. I'm Kate Hildreth, and today we are diving into some interesting topics. We are talking about climate change and what's going on with all of the farmland and the push for plant and insect based proteins. All of this and more coming up on Generation Rogue. All right, so let's set the stage. Over the last 10 years, we've seen an aggressive push for so called green energy. The mainstream media, politicians, and tech moguls are flying in their private jets to meetings about what strategies they can possibly use to obsessively promote things like electric cars, solar panels, wind turbines as the salvation for our planet, and convince the world that cows and farmers are the real enemies. By the way, these electric cars that they speak of, they require batteries made of lithium and cobalt and other rare earth metals, all of which need to be mined. And the mining is far from green. It's dirty and destructive and often relies on exploitative labor practices in countries with poor environmental regulations. Talk about counterproductive and hypocritical. Then there's this issue of farmland. In recent years, we've seen vast tracts of farmland being bought up, by developers and notably by people like Bill Gates. Yes, Bill Gates, one of the richest men in the world, now owns more farmland in America than anyone else. And while this is happening, farmers are being demonized for not following the latest government protocols or simply for using traditional farming methods that are suddenly deemed quote unquote energy inefficient by these elite organizations. Like the UN Environment Program and like the USDA, all of these organizations are trying to paint these farmers as inefficient. This isn't the best use of this land. This is harming our ozone layer, that kind of thing. And there's also other pressures put on American farmers. The US government is piling on taxes and permits and regulations, making it nearly impossible for small family farms to survive. And they're pushing these sustainable practices, but these so-called sustainable methods often require really expensive equipment and technology that only the big players can afford. How convenient. It's no wonder a lot of our farmers are being forced to sell their land because they can't make a profit. And who is buying their land? Billionaires like Bill Gates, of course. So, why would a tech mogul be so interested in farmland? Some would say it might be about control over the food supply, control over our agricultural practices, and ultimately control over what we eat. By some people, I mean me. This is what I'm looking at in terms of everything that's going on altogether. I don't think all of these things are coincidences. Speaking of control, let's draw some parallels here. Bill Gates buying up farmland. Again, like I said, I don't think this is about just agriculture. I think it's about geoengineering and chemtrails, those streaks in the sky that aren't just regular contrails. I think it's very possible that these are deliberate attempts to manipulate the weather, supposedly to combat climate change. At least that's what these people in power claim. So I guess we should just believe whatever they say, right? That this is good for our environment, that this is for our own good, right? All of this sounds very familiar. So we have one of the world's most powerful men buying up farmland and also heavily investing in climate-related technologies. If you think all of these things are coincidences, it's time to wake up. Now, let's talk more about this strange push away from traditional farming toward plant-based, insect-based proteins. Has anyone noticed? I'm sure you have this over the last few years, just red meat is bad for you. You shouldn't eat red meat so much. You should eat more plant-based things for your diet because it's healthier, all this kind of thing. The narrative is that it's better for the planet also. That red meat is bad for you and that raw milk, now with its many vitamins and minerals, is also bad for you, apparently. But who stands to benefit from this shift? Who stands to benefit from this narrative that you shouldn't eat this because it's not good for you or because it's for your own good? Again, so who stands to benefit from this shift? It's definitely not the American cattle farmers and poultry farmers who are being squeezed out by regulations and taxes. Plant-based meat companies are booming. And guess who's invested in them? Yes, Bill Gates. And let's not forget about insect protein. We're being told that insects are the food of the future. This is a quote unquote sustainable alternative to meat. But this isn't about sustainability. Let's cut the crap here. It's not about sustainability, okay? It's about controlling what we eat. It's about creating new markets and new sources of profit for those who are already wealthy beyond measure. This push for plant based and insect based proteins coincides with the demonization of traditional farming. The same people that are buying up farmland and promoting electric cars and telling us that our eating habits need to change in order to save the planet, they're not just shaping our energy consumption, they're reshaping our diets, our agricultural practices, and quite literally, the ability to grow our own food as well. Now, as I mentioned, all of this has been going on for the last few years. Even before COVID, there was mention of insect protein and this narrative that red meat was bad for you, blah, blah, blah. Enter bird flu. Bird flu, this mysterious, potentially next pandemic. Oh no, what are we going to do? Well, the FDA says, for one thing, you shouldn't drink raw milk. How convenient. This is from the FDA's website. Quote, raw milk can carry dangerous germs such as Salmonella, E. coli, Listeria, Campylobacter, and others that cause foodborne illness, often called food poisoning. Now, I'm not saying that no one has ever gotten sick from drinking bad quality or spoiled raw milk. Not saying that at all. But isn't it interesting that during COVID, we were told that we shouldn't be taking hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin? More than that, hospitals and doctors were literally banned from prescribing it. And we on Daily Clout had a video with Dr. Ben Tapper from the Wellness Company and Dr. Naomi Wolf, our CEO, discussing the benefits, the benefits of vitamin D. And that video was censored and taken down by YouTube. Of course, now many of us understand that vitamin D levels actually played a huge role in our ability to fight COVID. Now we see things like raw milk similarly being demonized. FDA says raw milk is bad for you and you shouldn't drink it. Guess we should just believe them. Did COVID teach us nothing? Reuters and PBS say cows are a major cause of global warming, so we need to believe them. Cows are bad. Eggs were good for you last week, but now they're bad. Oh, wait, now they're good again. These people don't know what they're talking about, and it doesn't even make any sense. So there's all this talk about saving the planet. All of these things are done under the guise of saving the planet. Newsflash, cows eating grass is the planet. Humans growing crops and living off livestock and the land is the planet. So what planet are we saving? I don't know what kind of planet these people are trying to save, but it's not a good one, and it's certainly not one that values freedom. Now, speaking of milk, let's talk about something called ento milk. What is it? Well, ento milk is milk made from insects. Yes, bug milk, literally bug milk. It's derived specifically from black soldier fly larvae. Disgusting, first of all. This so-called revolutionary product is being marketed as sustainable, high protein, as an alternative from traditional dairy milk. So this ento milk is being pushed as a solution to the environmental impact of livestock farming, promising to save the planet one glass of bug milk at a time. Now, this is where things get even more interesting. People online, thanks to Alex Jones and his InfoWars platform, are starting to question whether Bill Gates is also behind this push for ento milk. Remember, this is the same Bill Gates who's been heavily promoting insect proteins as a more quote unquote green alternative to actual meat. The theory goes that Gates, with his investments in synthetic and alternative proteins, could be using his influence to promote Ento milk as part of his broader agenda. Of course, Logically Facts, which is a fact checking website, supposedly, quickly reported that this claim was false. They argued that there is no evidence directly linking Bill Gates to Ento milk. But here's something to chew on. Logically Facts receives funding from Meta, Snapchat, and TikTok. They openly disclose this on their About page. So let's draw some parallels here. Bill Gates, Meta, Snapchat, TikTok, they all seem to be interconnected in this web of influence and control. Gates is known for his vast network of investments and influence in tech and food industries. Meta, Snapchat, and TikTok are the leading social media platforms in the tech space, shaping public opinion and controlling the flow of information. Is it really that far-fetched to think that they might have aligned interest? It's a symbiotic relationship. Gates promotes the agenda, and these platforms ensure that that narrative is controlled and dissenting voices are marginalized. This definitely sounds familiar. I think we all saw this in the COVID years. If we didn't see it at that time, we recognize it now. Recognize these patterns again. So obviously, if you control the food supply and the flow of information, you control the people. By pushing insect-based proteins like Ento milk and using powerful social media platforms to suppress opposing viewpoints, these elites can easily drive public opinion and consumer behavior in the direction that they want. We've seen this before. We see it time and time again now. It's time that we're all more aware of it. I think we are. It's all about control over what we eat, what we see, and ultimately how we think. Before we continue with this very interesting discussion, I want to take a minute to thank our wonderful sponsor, new sponsor, Native Path. Native Path collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, unlike too many collagen products out there, Native Path collagen is third-party tested for heavy metals to ensure purity and safety. It's completely flavorless and can be added to anything. I personally add it to my coffee in the morning, or if I'm having coffee after dinner, I'll use their collagen PM, which if you're anything like me and you find your brain going a million miles an hour at night, their PM is awesome. It's natural. I generally don't like protein drinks or anything like that. So the flavorless collagen is perfect. And their PM, they have a chocolate flavor that I absolutely love. Native Path's peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's more easily absorbed into the body and it mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. So head to getnativepath.com/dailyclout and you'll receive a massive 45% discount plus free shipping. A big thing for me and for anything that I'm incorporating into my daily routine is affordability. And I literally cannot believe how affordable this product is for the quality of product that you're getting. So again, go to getnativepath.com/dailyclout right now and stock up on these awesome products. You won't regret it. So Bill Gates buys up farmland, promotes synthetic insect-based proteins, and aligns with powerful tech giants like Meta and Snapchat and TikTok to control the narrative. This is my opinion. This is my kind of takeaway from what we're seeing, all the things going on at once. I think this is not just about climate change or sustainable food, as the media would have us believe. It's about consolidating power and influence over every aspect of our lives. Logically Facts, which is that supposed fact-checking website, dismisses the idea that Gates is behind the promotion of Ento milk. They dismiss that as a conspiracy theory, which they do to everything that they don't like these days. But considering their funding sources that they clearly even put on their website, can we even trust what they're saying? I think that their financial ties to these tech giants obviously are a bias because they would just be aligning their fact checking with the interests of whoever their benefactors are, which are the tech giants. So we've covered a lot of things today, but I think there's one more thing that we should talk about, and that is it feels like there's this concerted effort to lower human beings to the level of animals in various different ways. Not just talking about, climate change and COVID, certainly, but you also see things like euthanasia, you know, um, and abortion. We don't value human life. And I think we see that across the board. So think about that with this topic that we're discussing, climate change. We're now being told that eating bugs and drinking bug milk is better for us. It's for our own good, as if we're a bunch of pets who can't think for ourselves and can't do our own research because we just trust the quote unquote experts. And if they tell us that that's what's best for us, we should just trust them as our caretakers because we don't know any better. This idea that we should start eating bugs and drinking insect milk is being sold to us in a way as a way to combat climate change and improve our health. It's best for the planet, it's best for your health. But doesn't it seem a bit dehumanizing? It's like the elites see us as no different than livestock, cattle to be controlled and managed and fed whatever they deem suitable. We don't think that's good for you. You shouldn't have that. We think this vaccine is safe and effective. We're telling you it's safe and effective. Therefore, you should believe us and take it without question. This is how we're being treated in other aspects of our lives. During COVID, we were told that we could not leave our homes. We were told where we could go, what we had to wear. Our freedom of movement was severely restricted, and anyone who questioned these measures was labeled as a conspiracy theorist or a danger to public health. It's the same mentality: control and compliance. Another example, education. Look at how our education system is being manipulated. Common Core math, apps like Magibook AI, classic literature is being dumbed down because we can't think. They want us to be conditioned not to think anymore. I think the younger generations are being conditioned to accept simplified, diluted information without having to think for themselves or do their own research. Just accept what they're being told, this watered down version of what they're actually meant to be learning, if they're learning it at all. And they're less likely, with all of that, to question authority, which is the ultimate goal. Before we continue, I want to recognize and thank our valued sponsors at the Wellness Company. This team of renowned medical professionals, including Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and many other truth-seeking doctors, they have crafted the Wellness Company's Medical Emergency Kit, which contains life-saving medications so you can be prepared for times of crisis. In this kit, you get a little booklet that explains what each medication is, what its side effects are, what it's used for, so that you can be informed about what you're getting. This kit contains a life-saving medication such as antibiotics, amoxicillin, ivermectin, Z-Pak, you name it. In addition to the Wellness Company's wonderful medical emergency kit, which I always have on hand in my house, the Wellness Company has crafted the COVID emergency kit. This is the contagion kit, and again, you get a booklet that explains each and every medication you're getting. This kit contains ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, a nebulizer, and everything you'll need to combat contagions should they be spreading around, especially with talk of bird flu and the next potential pandemic. But pandemic or not, it's great to always be prepared for a time of crisis. Go to dailycloudhealth.com and use promo code KATE for 10% off. That's dailycloudhealth.com, promo code KATE for 10% off. And thank you for the Wellness Company for being our sponsors. And once again, who benefits from this? The elites. They maintain their power and influence while the rest of us are kept in line, compliant and dependent, not asking questions. We're being told how to eat now, how to think now, and how to live our lives, all under the guise of progress and sustainability, these buzzwords that we hear all of the time. But in reality, it's about creating a docile, manageable population. This is definitely a grim picture, to say the least, but I think it's one we all need to face. This push for insect-based proteins, the restrictive measures we saw during the pandemic, the dumbing down of our education system, all of these efforts point to a disturbing trend. The elites see themselves as shepherds, and we are their flock. We are not cattle, though. We are human beings capable of critical thought and innovation and self determination. And we need to wake up and remember that instead of just blindly accepting whatever we're being told on mainstream news. So, what's the takeaway here? First of all, we need to stay vigilant and critically evaluate the sources of our information. We need to fact check the fact checkers. This is where we are. We need to fact check the fact checkers. Who are their benefactors? There's a good chance that a lot of the fact checkers out there who claim that these quote unquote conspiracy theories are false have some sort of tie to the tech giants. And that's why we need to be very careful when we just dismiss something as wrong because some fact checker said it was false. We need to reject these attempts to lower us to the level of animals, to let them tell us what to eat and how to think and what to wear, and stand up for our rights even when it's inconvenient, even when, we are under threat of losing our jobs or whatever, because one day it's not just going to be your job, it's going to be your life. And we definitely do not want to get to that point. So we need to support real education so people can be informed and demand transparency from those in power. It's time to break free from this control and assert our humanity. Secondly, we need to wake up to see all of these patterns for what they are. These are not coincidences. I don't know how many times I've said that, but it's true. We need to discern and recognize these buzzwords so that we can identify where this propaganda is because it's everywhere. Once you're looking for it, it really is everywhere. We need to support local farmers and stand up against unnecessary regulations that are designed to push them out. I also think that we should be skeptical of these quote unquote green technologies because they're really not all that green. Electric cars, like I mentioned earlier, they require a battery. How do we get the battery? We need lithium, we need cobalt, we need all of these things. How are you going to get those things? You're going to mine them. How are you going to transport the cars? Probably using some kind of coal. This is the point. It's all packaged and marketed nicely as this, clean solution, but it's really not all that clean under the surface. Not to mention, if you've ever driven an electric car, they kind of suck. Like, they have no kick. They're just not that fun to drive, okay? That's kind of a sidebar, but point being, it's time we take a stand for the America that we believe in, an America where farmers can farm, where we aren't dictated to by the elites telling us what we can and cannot eat, and where the real solutions for climate change don't come at the expense of our freedom and independence. Thanks for tuning in to Generation Rogue. If you want to support the show, head to our locals page to make a one-time or repeating donation so that we can continue bringing you all of this content for free. We really appreciate your support. And remember, we are not cattle, we are human beings, and we can and should be thinking critically instead of blindly following the quote unquote experts. So keep pushing back, stay awake, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.